It's Monday and we're starting a new block of work in maths, which is multiplication and division. When we're filming, we might be using our working rule just as we normally would at school. And tomorrow we're going to be doing a mind map so that we've got some of the language that we know about this subject. We're going to start by looking at a book, and it explains beautifully what multiplication is. And we're also going to start fact of the day, and we're going to be doing that every day so that we're learning our multiplication maths facts. Stop. Okay, so as I've said, we're learning about multiplication in the spring term, and that's quite confusing for some children because multiplication and addition are definitely not the same thing, but occasionally they are the same thing or look like they might be. So, we know what addition is. If we've got one sweet and we add a sweet to it, we end up with 2 sweets. So that's addition. Multiplication is about groups. So what I just showed you was 1 plus 1 makes 2. I think you could all tell me if I got 1 sweet and then I got 2 more sweets, altogether I would have 3 sweets. So 1 add 2 equals 3. That's what I've got altogether. If we change the sign, that means that this sign goes in its place. It's something completely different because 1 times 2 is not 3. When we're multiplying, what we mean is I'm going to get a group of 2 things once. So here's my 2 sweets. I've got a group of 2 sweets. One set of 2 sweets is only 2. So 1 plus 2, or 1 add 2, is 3. 1 times 2 is just 2. So this is why it's confusing. This is why we're going to do fact of the day to help us not get so confused. So for our facts of the day, we're going to work on the 2 times table to start off with, which lots of you know. But the good thing is you can use this way of thinking to help you develop your language that's related to multiplication and also just really get in your brain what it actually means. So our first fact of the day, we've just talked about 1 times 2 is 2. We're going to go on to 2 times 2. 2 times 2. So going back to my example with the sweets, 2 times 2. There's one group of 2, but I went to get a group of 2 times. So I've got 2 lots of 2. So altogether, 2 times 2 equals 4. Now that's a bit confusing because if I start off with 2 and I add 2 onto it, I also, here's 2, here's another 2, I also get 4. So this first fact that we're looking at is actually really confusing because you get the same answer when you change the sign, but that hardly ever happens. So we need to look out for that sign. Are we being asked to get groups, or are we adding one amount to another? It's not always the same thing. So 2 lots of 2 make 4. I'm going to keep this addition fact here because it is true. But what else do I know? If I know that I've got 2 lots of 2 making 4, what else does that tell me? Well, if I've got 4, here it is. If I've got 4 and I split it into 2 groups, which is what this means, each of the groups will have 2 in. So for example, if I have 4 sweets and me and Mrs. Davies are in the classroom and want to share them fairly into 2 groups so that we get the same, 4 shared between 2 is 2. It's kind of doing the same thing backwards. So if I get two groups of two, put them together, I get four. If I've got four and split them into two groups, I get two, and that's what it means. We can use little numbers to help us with big numbers. So actually, 2 times 2 ones is 4. But if I get my Deans and show you this, there's a group, and there's a group. These are 2 10s. That's 20. 2 times 20, 2 groups of 20 equals, how many 10s have we got? 4 10s. So these zeros make a pattern which you'll get confident with as we go. So 2 times 2 ones is 4 ones, 2 times 2 10s is 4 10s, and because the 4 is in the tens column, we can see that it's 4 10s. So there's another maths fact using what we know. We can also make quite a snazzy poster. We can draw some pictures. So what sort of things come in groups of 2? Pairs of socks do. So I could draw, there's one group of 2. Socks, very exciting picture. If I go and get another group of 2, purple socks this time, and these ones are stripy ones. That's 2 pairs, 2 groups of 2, and all together I've got 4 socks. So that's a nice little drawing that shows 2 times 2 is 4. We could also use money to demonstrate. So I should have got some real coins to show you, but if I've got a 2p coin, let's do a simple picture, and then I go and get another 2p coin, 2 lots of 2p equals 4p. So there's another way of drawing a maths fact. I'm going to leave that there. We're going to do lots of facts of the day. Tomorrow we're going to do 3 groups of 2. And now I'm going to read you a story that helps us to think about what multiplication means. The story is called A Remainder of One by Eleanor Pinces, and it's all about an army made up of bugs and how they organise themselves into groups. So it really does help to explain what multiplication is. The story of Joe might just well explain what happens to numbers when they must remain after division and they're left behind as lonesome remainders. It seems so unkind. Down by an orchard of young apple trees, the sunshine felt hot, about 90 degrees, so insects all scurried for any cool shade. From mushroom or leaf they watched a parade. The 25th Squadron marched past the bug crowd, bound and determined to make their queen proud. The troop had divided by 2 for the show. Each bug had a partner, except Soldier Joe. So there are 25 soldiers in the squadron. They're all here. When they put themselves into rows of 2, they can't all get in a row. We've got Joe left behind. So let's carry on with the story and see what happens next. Up, 2, 3, 4. We're in the 25th Army Corps. Queen's count, 2, 3. We are the marching infantry. The Queen wasn't pleased. We're unhappy to find that one soldier's left at the end of a line. A honeybee hovered above Lone Joe's head. The Queen likes things tidy, the bee sternly said. I'm sorry, Private, said Joe's Sergeant Stephen. You must stand aside so the troop will be even. The 2 lines of 12 then marched neatly away, while Bug Soldier Joe had no choice but to stay. Lone Soldier Joe learned it wasn't much fun to find himself labelled remainder of one. The brainy bug soldier stayed up the whole night. Perhaps one more line would make everything right. All 25 soldiers marched past the bug crowd, nervously hoping they'd make their queen proud. The troop had divided by 3 for the show. Each line seemed perfect. Then someone spied Joe. So they're in groups of 3 now, all organised in rows of 3. But it doesn't work. When you have 25 altogether, you can't put them in groups of 3. Up, 2, 3, 4. We're in the 25th Army Corps. Queens count 2, 3. We are the marching infantry. The royal head shook. It's disturbing to find one oddball bug at the end of the line. A slender mosquito loomed over Joe's head. Too bad you're a misfit, the pest sharply said. I'm sorry, Private, said Joe's Sergeant Stephen. If you stand aside, then the troop will look even. The 3 lines of 8 all marched neatly away, while sad and disheartened poor Joe had to stay. The oddball bug Joe knew it wasn't much fun to feel so left out, a remainder of one. Again the lone soldier thought all through the night, with one more bug line, it might work out right. The 25th Squadron marched past the bug crowd, anxiously longing to make their queen proud. The troop had divided by 4 for the show. The lines all looked even, till they spotted Joe. So here we have our rows of 4, marching past the queen. But it hasn't worked. Her Highness pointed. We're angry to find a tag-along bug at the end of one line. A shy dragonfly fluttered over Joe's head. Now don't get discouraged, the fly softly said. So far, Year 3, we've had rows of 2, rows of 3, and rows of 4, and they haven't worked. So what do you think is going to happen next, I wonder? I'm sorry, Private, said Joe's Sergeant Stephen. You must stand aside, then the troop will be even. As 4 lines of 6 marched so neatly away, and Joe couldn't watch, for he had to stay. Poor Tagalong Joe didn't have any fun, always left out a remainder of one. But hard-thinking Joe had the answer that night. Another bug line must make it work right. So we've had rows of 2, rows of 3 and rows of 4, and each time Joe has been left out. So I'm sure you can predict how many are going to be in each group next. The 25th Squadron marched past the proud Queen, the neatest, best troopers that she had ever seen. 5 lines of soldiers with 5 in each row. Perfect at last, and that's counting Joe. Good show, said her Grace. Your rows are divine. We see no remainder to ruin your line. The troop took great pride in their skill at dividing. Joe was pleased he was there marching, not hiding. Because there he is. The coolest bug soldier beneath the hot sun. Smart Joe, the former remainder of one. So, Year 3, there is going to be a task for you to do based on this story. And you need to go and get 25 little objects. So, for example, you could try and find 25 buttons or something similar. I've got 25 paper clips. I happen to have 25 shells. And because I'm in school, I've actually got a little pot of counters here, and there's 25 of those. So to do the activity for maths today, you need to go and get 25 small objects. If you're really racking your brains, bits of pasta might be the easiest thing to find. So I'm going to stop the video now, and then I'm going to tell you what to do next. Welcome back. Hopefully you've managed to find 25 small objects to use. And what we're going to do is, in the story, there were 25 soldiers. So each button, in my example, is going to be one of the soldiers. So what I'd like you to do, children, is have a go at exploring what happens with 25 when you put it in lines of 2s. You should find there's 1 left out, lines of 3, lines of 4, and then lines of 5. And as you found out in the story, lines of 5 do make 25 exactly, so you don't have what's called the remainder of 1 left over. And if you can do all that, great. Maybe take some pictures or perhaps do a little drawing using dots of what happens when you arrange 25 dots into rows of 2 and you get 1 left over. And if you're feeling really clever, why don't you see what would happen if there were rows of 6 soldiers, 7 soldiers, 8 soldiers, 9 soldiers, 10 in a row, 11 in a row, and 12 in a row. See what happens. Good luck, and be ready to talk about what you found out when we next meet on Zoom. Bye, Year 3.